Sure. All right, coming up on today's, well, I guess I can't even say today's because it's not technically at Art Business Mornings, but on today's show, we're talking about NFTs. And do you hear that ringing? That is annoying. Hold on. Sorry. We're going to be talking about NFTs, the hottest subject since hot subjects to hit the art world in a century. I mean, it's got to be a century at least. So we want to talk about them. We want to talk about whether or not they are the future of the art business, kind of give you our thoughts. Our customers, we've been playing around a bunch with them. We've been getting a ton of questions from every direction imaginable. Granted, this is, we're in the art business. So one, a disclaimer, and then two, Nick and I can give a little bit about our background just in cryptocurrency in general. So one, the disclaimer, neither he or I are the NFT experts of all NFT experts. We have not been in the NFT industry for the last 15 years. We've been curious about them, been learning about them, still learning about them. I think NFTs in terms of a collectible, sellable token and everything else is so early days. The elevator has not even left the ground floor, right? The doors aren't even closing on the elevator. It's so early days. But why don't you say a little bit when you got into crypto? I'll say when I got into crypto, the point of today is just have an initial discussion on them. Like I said, our customers are already taking action. We've already listed some ourselves, and let's just see where it goes. Of course, everything's ringing.
Yeah.
So when did you first get into crypto? Let's start there.
So I got into it, I think we were talking about it. I think it was like 2016, 2017. Okay. But it was around 9 months to a year before the first run up, well, I mean, it actually wasn't the first one. The first ones were like in 2012 or whatever it was, but the big run up to 20,000 on Bitcoin. Right. Yeah. And so I got into Bitcoin and Ethereum prior to that, right? Like a year, let's call it a year before that. And when I got into it was like somebody introduced me to the technology. I don't remember who it was. I started hearing about it, people talking about it all around. I heard you talking about it, right? Like, you got to look into this. Like, this is really interesting. And me being a technology guy, engineer, right? Mindset. I looked into it, and as soon as I looked into it, I dove super deep. I mean, I remember the first day that I looked into it, I was like probably what I thought was going to be like 10 minutes was like 4 hours. You know what I mean? Like I read about it, and I read an article, and then I read another one and another one. And then I had to get back to work. And then later that night, I'm like, I couldn't wait to get back to it because I couldn't believe what I was reading. Right. And that was more about the blockchain technology and what it did and what it portended than in any individual cryptocurrency for that matter, or investment, or, some excitement about the investment in general.
So my buddy really early on, huge tech nerd, even bigger tech nerd than me. And he would build computers, and sometimes like some of the parts to get would be really hard to get. And he's like, I can actually get them sometimes easier paying Bitcoin back then, because the guys, whoever had the parts. And so he would go onto eBay and buy a Bitcoin, okay, for like $16 or like $10 or like $20 and ship it to get the part, right, and have it come in. So from there, I just thought, oh, wow, this is fun. And much like the hype of today, I was sucked in like the magnet, bought a bunch of Bitcoin, and then started buying Ethereum, and then started buying Ripple, and then started buying about 10 or 15 other ones, bounced around multiple exchanges, started trading them, got a hardware wallet, started selling them, lost tremendous amounts of money, made a little bit of money. And then since then, I've been holding it for 10 or 15 years, or like, I don't even know how long, a long time. Got onto Coinbase right when it started. So I bring that up to say, we do have some experience in crypto. We have bought and sold a tremendous amount of crypto, done all the different hardware wallets, gone through all the different tech hoops, gone through booms and busts and getting onto exchanges and how weird it is in exchanges, and what about passwords, and how do you keep things locked up, and how do you train it, and did you remember the password? Did you lose the hardware wallet? What about that hard drive? So we've been through a lot of it, right? And we've seen a lot of that. So we don't have everything figured out, but we're obviously mega fascinated by this. Felt like it was time to have a discussion. Plus, what do we constantly tell our customers to do?
Do their own research.
Newsjack.
Oh, newsjack.
So it's a little bit of news. It's a little bit of newsjacking too, right? Like, we're not above it. We know that, as a company that empowers artists and photographers to be successful via the selling of their products, we should probably discuss it, right?
Well, we have, and there's a lot of utility in this conversation too, because if, you know, our job, our role is to help artists run their own businesses, right? And this is a focus issue, right? Should you focus on this? You know, is there opportunity here? And all of that stuff. And I think that's important, and we need to talk about it.
Yeah. So let's start at the top with the definition, just get it over. So, you know, you talk about all of the various different cryptocurrencies out there, currency, right? And then everyone goes to coin, like Bitcoin. And so whether you call it a coin or whether you call it an NFT, a token, this is just, you know, a way of describing this digital asset, like make it seem simple, like it's a token that you can put in your pocket. Obviously it's not. But NFTs stand for non-fungible token. And fungible just means the thing can't be divided into a whole bunch of different parts. Like you could take a Bitcoin and buy all the way down to a Satoshi of the Bitcoin, which is the tiniest little amount of the Bitcoin. Like, you know, when you divide something in half and then you divide it in half and you divide it in half, and finally you can't divide it in half anymore. That's a Satoshi. So anyway, non-fungible just means it can't be broken up. Essentially what it allows you to do is take the ownership rights / a contract for just about any digital asset, right? Yes, it can be digital artwork. Yes, it could be all of your blog posts. Yes, it could be a video clip or a GIF or a video or, you know, any digital file. Technically, you could do it with just about anything, right?
Yeah, and it's non-digital. They're doing it with non-digital too now. It's very early, but go ahead.
And you're basically able to say, okay, this particular piece is owned by such and such. I am selling it via this transaction on the blockchain, and you should get into this whole process because you've done it. Selling this via the blockchain, and now this new person owns it, and the rights to this particular piece is established via the blockchain, which is immutable. It's recorded for life. It's fantastic, right? And in addition to that, what's really cool, one of the super buzzy things about it is you can put a contract into the token. And so let's just say I'm gonna take it out of the art world because, you know, what do I do a bunch? I blog, or let's just say the podcast. I'm gonna take the entire podcast, the entire ownership of the whole podcast. I'm gonna create an NFT, put it onto the blockchain, and I'm gonna say, if it ever sells again, okay, if it ever sells again, I get 10% of any sale. So now here are the rights to the podcast, as well as a contract that says, if anything happens, if this sells again, I get 10%. Nick goes on and he buys it. Nick now owns the rights, according to the blockchain, of the podcast. If he goes and sells it again, because that transaction to change ownership has to take place on the blockchain, a transaction happens and I can get paid again. So that's sort of how like the contract enforces it. But it's really kind of weird in a certain sense, right? Because, okay, Nick bought the podcast. I would just send him all the files. Why the heck do I need to put it into the blockchain and create all of that extra layers and everything else? But that's sort of a high level look. There's a million different ways you can get a definition on it. But why don't you give your sort of high level definition?
Well, I think that, you know, just to add on what you said, because there's a lot to talk about here, right?
Yeah.
To add on what you said, I think a good way for an artist to think about it, or a photographer, okay? But let's just use this example because photographers get original paintings as well. Let's take it out of the digital world and let's say, okay, if you have an original painting, because there's a lot of talk about this, that people are saying, this is the way that it may go. This is the way it may go, right? Is like when you sell if you're an artist or you're a painter and you're going to sell an original painting, right? And there's only one, okay? You normally just sell it, okay? And what you might do in the future is, yes, you would sell it, but you would also, you'd provide the actual physical painting to the buyer. But in addition to that, you would provide an NFT with it, which is essentially a certificate. That's the point that I want to make about the NFT, okay? The NFT, a non-fungible token, okay? This thing, all it is a digital reference to the ownership of the file. It's not the file itself when it's digital. It's not the item itself, okay? You don't like have that on your phone as a token and you're able to show it to everybody.
It's
like,
not the 23 megabyte JPEG.
No, I mean, you might have that, right? But you're showing it to anybody. Anybody can copy it if it's digital. Anybody can say that they have it. You know what I mean? Now you can prove it, but like what is somebody going to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. The only person who even cares to even know that you can prove it is the person who's going to buy it from you, right?
Yes.
But the point is that I think it's really important to see it through that lens, because if you're somebody that's selling originals, okay, then you have to ask yourself, right? Like, I'm already selling originals. Is the reason I'm not selling originals because I'm not providing an NFT with it? And you're adding like extra layers of complexity to it? No, it's not necessary at all, okay, in that regard. Now, when you start getting into like higher value items and like super high value, maybe if it's like $1 million or maybe $100,000 or more, it would be nice to have that, with it for sure. Like, I think there is a point where all of this makes sense, especially when it's a lot easier. And let's get to that point next, right? Because like, if I could buy an original that was even, $2,000 and then the NFT just got sent to me and it was really simple, then like maybe that would be okay. But like, there is a lot of friction in this process, okay? And this is where we go reality, right? We have to go to reality, and it's why we gave our bios, so to speak. And just to add on to what Pat said, because I didn't say this as well, I own 30 tokens, okay? I have
different types, you mean? Different types.
What's that? Different types of tokens. Yeah, like different projects, right? And I have accounts, on all these different exchanges, Binance and Kraken and Gemini, like every one of them, right? And you remember back in the day, you had to, because if the market was going crazy and one of them got shut down, that's what used to happen.
I know.
You were hoping that
you
could, it was the wild, wild west. You had to have like accounts on different exchanges just in case you needed to make some moves, right? But I also have, accounts on decentralized exchanges and all sorts of different wallets of things that aren't even, they're not even on Coinbases or on these things. You got to just buy them directly and swap things around. So you and I have been through this whole thing. And in that process, you had to learn so much. And this is where I'm getting to the complexity. You had to learn so much about how these wallets work, right? And I've since like gotten rid of all of this stuff. It's crazy. I had a safe deposit box at the bank where I had my keys, my private keys, and they were in tamper-proof envelopes. You know what I mean? Like in there, and then they were in there for years, and then finally I had to get them out, right? And then like I almost locked myself out of everything. And the Ledger had the Ledger is a private wallet that you have to store, that like is a security wallet, and like I almost locked myself out of that thing. I mean, literally, like out of a lot.
The only thing you secured your coins from was yourself.
Yeah, all I did, and it's like, and you're pulling your hair out. You're doing all this work for this thing, right? So let alone you get into the NFT thing, right? And we have started selling NFTs. Okay, we've done it. Like we're in the process of doing it, right? So we've launched them.
There are
NFTs for sale. Yeah, like I have put an NFT for sale for one of the artists on our platform, myself, personal.
Yeah, okay. I want you to go through that process, but I want to talk briefly on the promise, right? Because there's so many people that are hearing about NFTs for the first time and have no exposure to cryptocurrency aside from reading about it here or there, and just have no idea about any of it. The promise of it, okay, zooming way out, the promise of it is an amazing thing, right? And the promise of it is that creators of all stripes, this is where the artist umbrella widens all the way out. To yes, it's the digital artist. Yes, it's musicians. Yes, it can be authors. Like as wide as it goes, art, collectibles, right? The crafters, everyone's in there. The promise of it is you have the ability to sell direct, okay, without any middlemen involved whatsoever. And then the further promise is that via this token being traded and bought and sold and going up and going down in value, you have the ability to get compensated every time it sells. Now that is phenomenal, right? We are the promise of crypto, right? Like let's talk about the promise of decentralized networks for social media sites, right? Where there's no big bad company, no one can censor you. You get to keep all of your friends. Like the whole promise of blockchain decentralized networks is phenomenal. And I think there's a lot of people are speculating this is the future of the art business, and we would love nothing more than that to be the case, because all of the rights go to the artist, all of the power goes to the artist. That's how it should be. But boy, are we so far away from that point in time. But conceptually, that's a phenomenal aspect of it. Now, a danger of it, which I think we can get into, and then I want to rush into your process of listing one from start to finish, and the hoops you had to jump through to do that. But the danger in all of this is the early adopters of this particular movement, many are minted cryptocurrency millionaires, okay? They are millionaires. They've got there by a whole bunch of different ways, being the right place, the right time. And so when we see these ridiculous numbers being thrown out, people sold 3.5 million in a weekend. Since then, there's been $30 million additional revenue that's flowed to him. The NBA sold $200 million worth of their videos that were tokenized and turned into NFTs. People are buying this 8-bit art CryptoPunks for, like $350,000 for one single solitary image. All of that is taking place in this massive speculative land where all of these crypto millionaires have a bunch of money, have too much money, quite frankly, to buy and sell and trade. And what's happening is it is shiny object on steroids, the likes of which I've never seen ever. And what's happening, which, breaks my heart a little bit, is you get a bunch of people that are like, wait a minute, I'm not selling on my website currently. What I'm going to do is rush some NFTs in there and they'll sell there, right? Not the way it works, okay? The very, very few, okay, artists that are doing great. I mean, you hear the story about Beeple, and it is the single solitary greatest story in perspective that I've heard recently. He did a digital artwork a day for like 17 years and never missed. Some ridiculousness like that, right?
5,000 days is what he
whatever it was. I mean, I'm a little bit off on the timing, but like, this guy has a diehard community, okay? He's been in the crypto community for a long time. There is a reason he is doing so well, right? So operating under the premise that this is somehow the promised land of milk and honey, when you're not selling over here, all this does is introduce 1,000 levels of the friction into the process, which you can go on next. So it's not some sort of panacea, okay? Not selling over here means not selling over there. There's not some sort of magical pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Okay, it is a highly speculative community. There are going to be some people that do phenomenally well. The odds of that happening are extremely low. It is extremely, extremely early days. There might be some people that jump and get in their first mover advantage and do something, but by and large, this is not reinventing anything, and certainly not overnight. But the promise is phenomenal.
I've got a lot to talk about there. A lot. So first of all, let me just say this. I'm just going to cut right to the center of this. All right. Here it is. We've listed a NFT for sale of one of the best-selling images that one of our best-selling artists, who sells hundreds of thousands of dollars a year of art, up and did the auction and did everything. And guess what? It didn't sell. Didn't sell.
Of course not. That's one of the ways. That's one of the ways to list, right? There could have been some other ways to list, but
but
a larger point.
But it was listed in one of the biggest marketplaces, and all that stuff, and it didn't sell. All right, so we're going to relist. But you know what we're going to start doing, Pat? What are we going to start doing? We're going to have to start doing marketing.
Oh, surprise! Surprise that.
But before everybody who's listening to this, who isn't selling hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, like, I want you to know, like, what Pat just talked about with Beeple. Okay, Beeple is the guy selling the most NFTs at these crazy numbers. And there's other people. I mean, it makes for such a great news story. It's like, it's the same thing as the TechCrunch article that this company just raised $100 million, Series C.
It is straight up gold rush.
Yeah, it's straight up gold rush. But look, if somebody is, that's selling and is as successful as this person I'm referring to, isn't just going out there and selling them right away, pump the brakes for a second here. Everyone can pump the brakes just for a moment, right? It doesn't mean you're missing out on something that, like, you could be made a millionaire, in the next month or two. If anybody's going to figure it out, it's this guy, right? Along with us, because his art is already completely validated and has been for years. And so his NFT should sell, right? And so, anyways, there's a lot that has to get figured out there. But I want to talk about something even bigger here. I think this is really, really important, because I haven't heard anybody break this down. And I've been in the art industry for almost 25 years. And I think this is really important to say, because, there's been some big shifts in the industry. And I don't think that this is one of them. I think this is an expansion. A shift is different from an expansion, okay? A big shift that happened at the beginning of my career was Giclée. okay, was essentially, which was essentially when there used to be lithography and serigraphs was the way that art was reproduced. And there was only a couple of these companies across the country who did these. One of them was a good friend of mine's company, and you know, an older gentleman, and he was, you know, one of the last serigraphy houses. In fact, he still is. He does digital as well, but he still does serigraphs at his company, okay? And the reason why that was such a big shift was because in order to do a print run, you had to have like at least, let's call it like 200 to 300 prints of one image in order for it to make sense. And the digital printing, going to inkjet, that's what Giclée is. It's just an inkjet print, okay? Going to inkjet allowed artists and photographers to self-publish and print on demand, okay? Which means you could launch one image and you could sell one and it could get printed, which means instead of the art market being limited to what the publishers and what, you know, art dealers and whoever else thought was going to be a successful image, you could release everything, right? Because they had to choose. They had to say, I think it's going to be this one. And then they went and printed a bunch of them. And then they would go to retail stores, right? That's what happened back then in pre-internet. So anyways, that was a really big shift, and it blew up the industry in great ways and shifted a lot of power to the artists, okay, and photographers. Massive power to them. That was a big shift. That's a shift, okay? Now, I believe that this NFT thing is more of an expansion, and yes, it is awesome long term for artists. Awesome in many different ways, okay? But let me tell you why I think it's an expansion, okay? The thing you have to do, and there's a famous professor, a great book, it's called Competing Against Luck, and the author is Clayton Christensen, and super famous guy, very well respected in the entrepreneurship, you know, venture capital world for, you know, having a lot of thought and methodology about like what, you know, markets and what makes companies succeed and things like that. And he created this framework called jobs to be done, okay? And this is what ties into this whole situation. And essentially what it means is that, you know, when a person buys a product, what is the job they're trying to get done? Okay. And you really want to understand what that is. So let's bring it back to the art world. So an interior designer, what is their job to be done? They've got to outfit like physical pieces of work in a hotel, in a house, you know,
office, wherever, yeah,
right? Somebody who owns a home like myself, and you know, what's my job to be done? My job to be done is to put art on my walls, right? That I have. I'm collecting these pieces. I have, you know, cocktail parties or friends over, and I've got cool art on my wall, and you get to talk about it, and you get to enjoy it, and it inspires you while you work, you know, in your setting, and all of these different things, right? And I also say that like, you know, people have TVs that like have art on the TV, right?
Yeah.
Well, in a given house, the amount of like art and photographs and like, you know, of your family and like things that are printed is like 3 or 4 to 1 versus a TV, okay? And so like, there's a lot of art that is going to be on the walls with, despite any digital, you know, revolution of art in any way, okay? It's not like this room that I have, like this game room that I have in this other room that has, you know, 5 pieces of art on the wall. It's not going to be 5 TVs. There's 1 TV and there's 5 other areas that need to get filled. You know what I mean? We're not putting 5 TVs on the wall. So the art market, you know, traditionally has been like, you think about all of the jobs to be done, okay? It is typically like 99% or more is hanging art on the wall, okay? So if there are people who want to have art on their phone or on their TV, it's just an expansion of the market. But more importantly is the collectors, okay? The collector. What is the job to be done of a collector, a traditional collector? Now, it's important, this is important to talk about, because who is really involved in the NFT world? You see guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? And those types of people. What is Gary Vaynerchuk really into? He's really into cards, like baseball cards, you know, basketball cards, collectibles. These are collectibles, but the collectible world is really big, right? People collect watches, they collect art, they collect any of these different things, okay? And so NFTs is largely attracting that audience for now, a piece of that audience, but it's mainly hardcore crypto people, truly, right? That happen to also cross over. I think a lot of the people buying the cheaper NFTs are just crypto people, and they're riding the speculation
craziness. Yeah.
There's a lot of speculation, and they think they're going to make money on them, right? And flip them and whatever. And that's the majority of the market there, right? So when people talk about this is a tectonic shift or whatever, yeah, I mean, you could call it like, you could say that, these definitions of these words can be like, they can cross over with each other and all of that stuff. But when you think about it from a jobs to be done perspective, what I see is there are a lot of jobs to be done with art, okay? All the ones that remain are the same exact things. People need printed art. They need original paintings. You know what I mean? They need the photography, all that stuff. All of that is the same. The NFTs is an expansion onto it. And I love that expansion. I think it's great for digital artists. I think if it gets more exposure for artists and more attention for artists, that's all good. That's all good. So if you can sell them and you can ride this wave and get anything out of it, as we always say, absolutely, right? It's like it's more gravy for you, and that's awesome. But I think it's important to understand what it is. And so on top of that, one other thing that I'll say for all of you out there, if you are not like top, what would you say, top 10%, top 5% from a technical standpoint, don't even bother. Right? Just don't even bother. Just get off this, shut this video off and move on. Because you have no idea what you're getting into when you're getting into cryptocurrencies at this point, because they are not user-friendly. They are not user-friendly. It's still not there yet. That's one of the biggest.
Say it another way. If you are struggling with your social media updates, okay, getting that website live, right? Send some emails. Not for you. Not for you.
Exactly.
Don't waste your time on this one. There. I mean, unless you want to get to the other side and sell picks and axes, fine. But do not buy your mining equipment and then go get in the river, because it's not going to work. That's for sure.
Exactly. So I think that's, it's really important information. So I think that, if you're really savvy, should you be dabbling in it? I think the really savvy people already are, and they don't even need to be told. They already are. We know who they are. They already are, and otherwise, I think it's prudent to, stay the course on what you're doing and focus on, doing more marketing and actually, like
trying to have a loyal following.
Validate your artwork, like dial in your niche, all of those things. Because here's the thing is that if you can sell art really well, you'll be able to sell NFTs well eventually, if this whole thing remains and, the market is still there when the shoe drops. Because what's going to happen here, and I'm just going to call it right now, right? Like, I hope I'm wrong. But the traditional trajectory or behavior of the cryptocurrency market is boom and bust. It just happens over and over and over, and the booms get higher every time than the busts. So if you hold, or hodl as they call it, right? You're always better. You've always been better off in cryptocurrency, right? You've always been better off. But things like the ICOs and which we don't need to get into what those are, but that's what was a big part of what created the boom in 2017, I think it was. These things are going to correct, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these crypto, they're going to go up and they're going to correct back. And, a lot of people are going to be left holding the bag on these NFTs, and it's not going to be pretty,
Yeah. I mean, it's massive early speculation. And like, look, I go and I share a screen, right? Let me just see if I can share this screen, see if this works. You mean to tell me that buying this thing for $44,000 is not going to sell? It could sell for $44,000. Everyone's talking about the wins that are happening in NFTs right now.
And you're not.
No one's talking about the fact that this is not going to sell for $44,000. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This little is it CryptoPunk is not going to sell for $44,000, or a version of a CryptoPunk, right?
Yeah. And the important point is, just to say it again, you're not buying that file. You're buying a digital reference.
I know.
To this file. Everybody can have that file on their TV, on their phone.
And you can just go and download it right there. You can just go and download the gift, and you can have it.
When you buy an NFT, you get to be the one that says, hey, but I've got the NFT, right? Yeah. That's your street cred. All of you can have it, and all of you can print it and do whatever you want with it, right? Because they can make posters. I mean, they can probably do whatever they want with it, but I own the NFT, right? Yeah. And I own this digital reference on the blockchain that is associated with my wallet, and that's what you're getting.
Yes.
So you know what I mean? Like I'm saying it because I'm still wrapping my head around like all of that, and I want you guys to know as well.
Yeah, and look, I've been binging on the YouTube videos about it and reading all the articles about it, and it's impossible not to get caught up in the frenzy. I mean, these numbers are Mickey Mouse. These numbers are incredible. They're ridiculous. It's impossible for Nick and I not to read these things and go, oh my gosh, what do we need to do? Do we need to immediately get into this and leverage it for our customers? And then your youth and experience that would have got me 10 years ago. Okay, yeah. Now a little bit long in the tooth, a little bit older. Hold on just a minute. Is this the shiniest objects I've seen come down the pike in the last, I don't even know how many years? Yes, it is. Okay. It is a massive shining object. Does it have promise? Yes, it does. Is the premise fantastic? Yes, it is. Are you going to grab all of your images, spend the next 3 weeks trying to figure out how to move some cash into Coinbase to buy some Ethereum so you can pay the gas and get these things listed and start taking payments and make thousands of dollars? No, you're not, because you're not making it already outside, right? There's right place, right time that's happening for a very few small people. But for everybody else, let the pioneers go out there and take the arrows in the back, and then you could be the settlers and settle the land once it's all smoothed out. It's going to be a little while though, but it's very, very interesting. It's very interesting.
But I think it's, having said all of that, what are we doing? We're testing it.
Yeah, with margin time. With margin time.
Yeah, exactly. With margin time. Yeah, but it's part of our, we're always testing new strategies and new marketing things. And that's our role at Art Storefronts, right? Mm-hmm. New things that are going to, add average order value size, increase conversion rates, expand your audience, expand your market. That's what we have to do, right? So we are testing it, and we're testing it with people who sell really, really well. And so if we can't make it happen with them, then I'm chomping at the bit with this because I love the strategy that we have, right? It's like, take the people that have a real business, right? The biggest real business possible, and they should be selling NFTs, you know what I mean? Properly marketed and all that stuff. And if they can't, then you realize that the only people who are selling them are, these limited few, like the Beeples that are out there. And by the way, on the big websites like Nifty Gateway, Pat, I don't know if you know this, you can't get on these. You can't get on them. So the ones where these big things are happening, it's completely controlled, and they're only letting certain people on them that have a serious background and a serious following, and that's where all the money is going, right? That's where these things are all getting bought. And so you have to just imagine, if we can't make people with successful art businesses start selling NFTs regularly, because it takes time and effort. It's not like a just a launch it and forget it, right? You're gonna have to, and I should probably get into how you actually launch one and sell one, right? But
do you feel that we are spreading the FUD?
Yeah, but the bottom line is,
I love that acronym, FUD. This is what they say at the cryptocurrency world when people start casting dispersion on various different aspects of it. They're just out there spreading the FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt that little cat behind me is not worth $442 million. Right? Yeah. Lion, cat, pig, whatever it is. Anyway, do you want to go through it? Is it even worth going through it? Do you want to?
I mean, most people won't understand it, but I'll explain it for some people who might have a decent understanding. So the first things first is you're going to have to own some Ethereum. Okay. You're going to need a MetaMask wallet. I'm just going to say MetaMask. MetaMask is it's a wallet that you can use in your browser like Chrome. Okay. And you're going to need to get the Ether in there. All right. And so you can usually get a MetaMask wallet and then buy the Ether and have it right in there. However, if you live in certain states, apparently Texas is one of them, you can't do that. Okay. So I had to transfer ETH into that wallet in order to get it there. All right. And so once you have that, then you can set up an account on, these various sites like OpenSea, Rarible, or whatever. And then you can mint a non-fungible token, an NFT, okay? You mint it, like minting a coin, right? Same terminology. But what you do during that process is you have your digital image, that's referenced for this sale, like Patrick just showed, okay? That CryptoPunk. And then you give all of the details in there, and then you verify your account and whatever, and you pay a gas fee, you pay a fee to list this NFT, and then it is now for sale and somebody can buy it. You can set up the royalties and some things like that in there as well. But then once it's ready for sale, then you'll have a URL, okay, that you can give to anybody to buy it, all right? And that's where the marketing comes into play, all right? So you'll have to market it in order to get people to go there and buy it, okay? And once somebody buys it, then they will give you their wallet address, and you will send it to their wallet address, and the software in these marketplaces facilitates that, okay? And so at that point, they have this NFT, this token in their wallet, okay? And that's it. They just have the token in their wallet. And they can say that they own that digital file. But like I said, Patrick, you could download it right now, Yeah. You could download it, you can make a video of it, you could do whatever you want with it, anybody can have it. But that one person is the person who owns the reference to that digital file. Now, the interesting part about this too is that just because it's on the blockchain doesn't mean that it's completely authentic, okay? You have to make sure when you're a buyer of an NFT that the person you're buying it from actually was the creator. Because think about what could happen right here. Somebody could go take that image and go mint an NFT somewhere and sell it, and somebody might buy it, right? And it's on the blockchain.
Yeah,
it's on the blockchain, right? So it doesn't matter. You can have lies on the blockchain. It doesn't matter, right? The blockchain isn't the truth of the world. It's just a proof of something that actually happened. But that proof that something that happened could have been a scam. It's very interesting. So people buying collectibles or NFTs, they have to be very careful that they're buying it from the artists themselves, right? And not somebody so they've got to be a blue check mark, like a Twitter blue check mark, or a verified account or whatever that is. And see, that's still up in the air, because even when I've sold the NFT, or when we listed NFTs for sale, they didn't ask for identification. They didn't ask.
That particular marketplace didn't verify it at all.
No,
I'm sitting here laughing
for the artist, but they didn't even ask it. They didn't ask for verification that we were actually the artist. And of course, we're really, we're good people. We're close with our artist. We're not going to do anything wrong. So we're getting it done for him with his, approval. But isn't that interesting?
Massively so.
Somebody could go to anybody's website right now and start selling their stuff as NFTs and playing it off as if they were them. And we live in a world where it's not that hard to do that these days. I mean, did you see the deep fake the other day with Tom Cruise? It's all over the news, right? The videos of it. I mean, you can practically fake anything. So I think that's at a very important point as well, because it's something that bothered me when I was looking into this. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second. If I bought one of these, it's not like I have the file on the blockchain. All I have is a reference that I own this token. And the originator of that token is someone, right? And it's the artist. But you better believe when you're selling that token, you're gonna have to prove that, right? And it should be easy to prove that on the blockchain. That's the point of it. But I think you guys see my point. There's a lot of complexity in this.
We're sitting here trying to give directions, okay? In the art selling world, you know what the directions are? Go to the website, buy the art. What you just said was, instead of a one-turn direction, go to the website, buy the art. You're adding in 27 different steps.
Yeah.
That's going to work. That's going to make things extremely easy. Stated another way too, I made every mistake imaginable. Okay. I still make them. But I can remember 10 years ago, 8 years ago, telling my buddy I was doing some consulting for him on his e-commerce website. I was like, dude, you've got to start taking Bitcoin, right? You've got to start taking Bitcoin and taking crypto in terms of these transactions. I get somebody couple, 2-3 days a week saying, hey, does the art storefront software allow you to take Bitcoin? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. You want to know why? They have 5,000 customers and not one single solitary person, one single solitary time has gotten a request to buy a piece of artwork to transact on Bitcoin on their website, okay? If that did happen, and I'm not aware that it has, all right, out of 7 years of 5,000 customers, they would send you an email and send it to your private wallet. You can verify it that way. So we're not going to go spend thousands of dollars to accept Bitcoin when no one's actually doing it, right? And no one's actually done it in the 89 years because none of them are actually currencies, right? Now they have some that are actual currencies now, but all it does is make the process more difficult. What is the job to do when you can slide one of these things and it works in 2 seconds? Why the hell do you even need to add the difficulty?
You don't need
that, you know, that's what I learned.
Yeah, and the other thing is that like Stripe, you know, we're integrated with Stripe, and Stripe had Bitcoin, and then they're probably going to turn it back on, you know, if they haven't, like, you know, if they haven't already. But they shut it down during, like, when everybody was shutting down Bitcoin 4 years ago, you know, they shut it down. But I think the bigger point is, like, why, if you knew cryptocurrency, you would never even ask that question. If you knew Bitcoin, you would never ask that question. Nobody's selling their Bitcoin. Who owns it? The only reason they're selling it is to take profits because it appreciated. They're not.
Yeah, they're not using it as currency.
Yeah, it's not a medium of exchange.
It's gold.
It's gold. Nobody is using it to buy stuff. And exactly what you said. It is a major pain to use. You know, unfortunately, that was an original, you know, premise of it, and maybe it will be one day. But it's just the truth. And you're talking to two guys who love, you know, cryptocurrency and everything about decentralization. We're not like Charlie Munger, or who are some of the other people that just basically poo-poo it every single day. Peter Schiff, you know, the gold bug guy. He's a guy that just, I mean, no matter what, it's a scam, right? That's not us. We are actual real holders, real long-term people in this. And you just learn after a while, you're like, this is not easy stuff. This is not easy stuff, right? No. So yeah, so that's the deal. That's the deal with that. So, you know, there's no point in having that on a website when nobody's spending their crypto.
Look at there in here. As of now, it costs $100 each use to upload one. You're not hearing about that in the news articles, are you? Therein, the $100 that it cost. You're hearing about the 3.5 million sold, but not the $100 that it costs to upload it. So
that's right. And you know what? Like, show that again. See, like, that's another point right there that I want to make is, you're not uploading a piece to the blockchain, right? Just making that again. I see what you're saying, Barry. He or she has been listening to this whole conversation. But like, you're not. It's not the file that's going on the blockchain, right? Yes. It's not the actual file. You know,
this has been like the whole point of crypto the whole time. Like, it is still so complicated and difficult and hard every which way. It's hard to explain. It's hard to articulate. It's hard to make it make sense to people that are like deep into it. You know, there's a lot I don't understand, right? I don't even want to talk about how much money's worth over the years. I still don't have it all figured out. I'm not even close, right? Like, it is so confusing. How out of that situation are you going to springboard your career? You're not. So I don't mean to be negative, Nancy, about it, but you get my point.
Yeah. So I mean, it's what it is it's a lot of excitement and positivity on our side about how we feel about this, you know, but it's also from a rational business standpoint, like, you know, we got to cut right to the middle of it for everybody. Right. And so we're doing our research. So stay tuned. You know, we're going to be trying to sell them and in all sorts of different ways and get that figured out, you know, but make no mistake about it. At the end of the day, the way that we're going to sell them is through marketing, through that artist actually marketing the NFTs to the same audience that he or she already has by email, social media, and all of those things. It's not just going to be like randomly out of the blue, you know? Yes. So like, that's the way that it's going to go. But the part that I like about it is like, hey, if there's an expansion of the market and there's crypto people out there that want to buy these things, you know, and we can get in front of them, we can get our artists in front of them and make it easy, you know, add a media type or whatever it is on the website, very easy. And they can add the link in there. And all of a sudden next to canvas, metal, art paper, you know, there might be NFT and it links right to where they can buy that NFT. If we can sell them, we will add that feature. If we can get it done, we will add that feature and all of our customers will have it, you know? But what I think we've got to do, you know, is we got to sell some of these NFTs for artists that are not These people that
community.
I'm referring to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The regular artist with a real successful business needs to be selling NFTs. You know what I mean? That has to work. So if it doesn't work for them, it's not going to work for the person who's struggling to sell $5,000 a year.
It's going to be a very, very small number early on that are having the great level of success. And guess what? They're all doing their marketing. As it turns out, doesn't matter what you read in what magazine or paper, they all did their marketing. They all have a community. They're all interacting with it all the time. They're putting out a piece a day for 5 years or whatever it was. Like, they're grinding in there, you know? They're grinding in there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm good with that.
Yeah, so I'll say as a final though, you know, I think the most poignant part about it for all of you listening is really to take with you that jobs to be done framework. You know what I mean? In understanding like the whole art market and all the jobs that there are to be done and where, you know, all of the transactions are taking place, and understanding like, you know, where original art, all the printed art, you know, in all of the homes and hotels, like all of that has nothing to do with this really, right? Like maybe some of those will come with an NFT, but that's really just the choice of the artist or the photographer, whether they even want to do that. And then the expansion part of it is just the NFT market, you know?
I think the expansion is a great way to say it. That's totally, it's not taking away from the core of what everyone's trying to do. It's just adding on the fringes.
Yeah. And if people can become collectors, you know, and feel like they're collecting your work like a baseball card, and that expands the market, awesome, you know? Yeah. And so that's where the expansion is. By the way, I want to say this as another final thing is the one use, you know, that I see that is extremely useful for this, okay, is if a company like Christie's, okay, let me just use that as an example, okay? So they go through what's called Provenance, where like they are verifying essentially the chain of custody of a piece of artwork or a collectible, right? Mm-hmm. That's of really high value. And so if they have gone through that, you know, and they have this $1 million, you know, statue from Roman times that they're going to sell, okay? And they have gone through that process and they have verified it and they've gone through their whole thing, you know, and they're going to sell that. That with an NFT makes a lot of sense to me. Makes a lot of sense. Why? Because if Christie's is the minter of the NFT, okay, and the history of that NFT goes all the way back to Christie's, and with the information that this is what they did and they were the originator, and this actually bought at auction at a, you know, one of those, then yeah, then it adds a lot more credibility. But that also doesn't mean, you know, I mean, that also doesn't mean that somebody couldn't like, you know, have a fake, you know, actual statue, right? That like they had it and then they sold a fake statue, and however that happens, right? So they're not tied together, you know what I mean? Like that piece. If it was digital, you know, it wouldn't matter. But then you're back to the digital thing, which is, yes, you own the certificate, but the whole world can have the image, the GIF, or whatever it is. So it is what it is. But from a provenance standpoint, it adds a little bit more value to be able to say, hey, you know, I bought this from Christie's and I got an NFT with it, you know, that proves that that this was that item, and they went through their whole process of ensuring that it is a valid, you know, authentic piece.
My mind hurts just even talking about it.
I know. But hey, this was good. We went through a lot of detail on this.
Yeah.
I hope it was helpful for all you guys.
Yeah, we'll be talking about it more. Like, look, again, love the promise. Terrified that the shiny object will draw a bunch of people away from stopping to work on their marketing. You have to give me consistency points on that. All I want you to do is all work consistently on your marketing and build a business in the normal way. Yeah,
exactly. And you know what? Keep following us. We will keep you posted on this as we start selling the NFTs. If we start selling NFTs, okay, with the aforementioned people, right? Like the most successful artists and photographers on our platform, then we'll have some new information and some things. And I think that's when you can, you know, it gets smarter to potentially take some steps into that area. But we'll have a lot more information at that point.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you. And as always, have a great day. Got you to sign up.